Welcome to another deep dive, everyone. I'm really excited for this one. We're going to be looking at the work of Sylvia Ola, and she's this leadership expert with some pretty interesting ideas about resilience.
Oh, yeah. She's got some really thought-provoking stuff, doesn't she? The thing that really stood out to me was how she goes beyond just the usual, bouncing back idea of resilience, you know?
Right, she ties it to this whole concept of completion. Like understanding endings is somehow the key to moving forward.
Yeah, it's almost like the secret ingredient or something.
Definitely. So let's start with her actual definition of resilience from her article, Resilient Leadership. She says it's the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties. Toughness. Pretty standard, right? But then she takes it a step further.
It's not just about being tough and surviving. There's this whole layer of, actively choosing to move through those difficulties.
It's about believing in your own ability to overcome things.
Yeah, exactly. And, Ola even uses the word voluntarily to emphasize that sense of agency. It's like you're not just putting up with it. You're actually making a choice to rise above.
I love that. So it's not just about, toughing it out. It's about this intentional act of moving forward.
Right. It's a subtle but important distinction.
And this makes her examples of what she considers non-resilient behavior even more fascinating. Because some of these are things we see all the time, like we've all probably done some of these things.
Oh, I know I have. Okay, so what are some of these examples? What kind of things does she highlight?
Well, there's this thing about clinging to the past,
Hmm.
where people let past failures completely paralyze them.
Oh, yeah, the good old fear of failure. That can definitely hold people back.
And then I think that kind of leads into another one she talks about, which is maintaining the status quo. Like, it's easier to just stay stuck in what you know, even if you're not happy.
Right. The comfort zone trap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because change can be scary.
Yeah, even if staying the same is actually worse for you in the long run.
Absolutely. Okay, and then there's the self-doubt monster, where people don't even try new things because they've already convinced themselves they're going to fail.
They're setting themselves up for failure before they even begin.
I know. And then on the flip side, there's the folks who care way too much about what other people think.
Oh, yeah. The people pleasers.
And they end up twisting themselves into knots just to fit in.
Definitely.
And Ola doesn't let leaders off the hook either. She talks about this risk-averse leadership style where bosses would rather play it safe than try anything new.
Right, because innovation is inherently risky.
It is. And so if you're too afraid to make a mistake,
You end up stifling creativity, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? She even points out that, the physical environment could be a sign of this. Like, if an office space looks exactly the same as it did 20 years ago, that might be a red flag.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be a sign that they're resistant to change, right? Like the space itself is stuck in time.
I know. It's crazy. But here's the thing. When you look at all these examples she gives, it's like they all have this one thing in common: fear.
Yeah, I can see that. Fear of failing, fear of what people will think, fear of change in general. It's like this underlying current running through all these non-resilient behaviors.
And I think that's what keeps people stuck, ultimately.
It definitely does. It keeps them from reaching their full potential, from taking risks, from really growing.
And ultimately, it prevents them from being resilient. Because for Ola, resilience isn't about avoiding the hard stuff. It's about having the courage to face it head on.
And then knowing when to let go, which I think is where things get really interesting.
Right. This is where her whole idea of completion comes in, like understanding that endings are actually crucial to becoming more resilient.
Yeah, it's like she's turning the whole way we think about endings on its head.
Totally. She's saying that everything has a natural endpoint. Everything reaches a point of completion. But we as humans, we fight against that. We cling to things, don't we?
Oh, we do. We cling to jobs, to relationships, to ideas, even when they've clearly run their course.
Like we're so terrified of letting go.
Yeah. And that fear keeps us trapped in this in-between state. You're not fully engaged, but you're not free either.
And that's what Ola is saying holds us back, right? It's that resistance to completion that prevents us from moving forward.
Exactly. And it prevents us from becoming truly resilient.
And she uses this really interesting example to illustrate this: the downfall of Kodak. Most people would see it as a total failure.
Right. But Ola has a different take on it.
Oh, completely. She argues that Kodak was actually a success. It achieved what it set out to do, but then it reached its natural conclusion. And clinging to that past success is what ultimately led to its demise.
Wow. It's like she's saying that even something like A company going bankrupt can be seen through this lens of completion. Like, it's just part of the cycle.
Yeah, and if we can learn to see endings that way, it can actually free us up to embrace those new beginnings.
That's a really powerful reframe. Instead of seeing an ending as a failure, it's like, okay, this chapter's complete. Now what's next?
Exactly. Which brings us to what might be Ola's most controversial idea, this whole concept of the exit strategy.
Ooh, yeah, that one can definitely ruffle some feathers. Because, I mean, who wants to be thinking about how things end all the time?
Right.
Ooh.
It can feel a bit negative, like why focus on the ending when you're just starting something?
Exactly. But Ola's point isn't about being pessimistic or negative. It's actually about taking control. It's about recognizing that change is inevitable and having a plan for how you're going to respond when it happens.
So instead of being totally blindsided when something ends, you've already considered the possibility, right? And maybe even have some ideas about what you'll do next.
Exactly. So let's say you're thinking about leaving your job. Ola would say, okay, what's your exit strategy? What steps can you take now to make that transition as smooth as possible? It's about being proactive, not reactive.
So instead of panicking and feeling like you're drowning when things change,
You've already got a life raft ready to go.
love that analogy. And it's not just about jobs either. Ola applies this to all sorts of areas of life, like relationships. Let's say a relationship isn't working out.
Okay, so what would an exit strategy look like in that situation?
Well, it could be anything from couples counseling to setting clear boundaries to, yes, even ending the relationship. It's about having the courage to acknowledge when something has run its course and then being prepared for what comes next.
So it's not about being afraid of endings. It's about recognizing that endings are a natural part of life. And having some kind of plan can make those transitions so much less scary and overwhelming.
Exactly. And remember, this whole idea of the exit strategy, it can feel a little counterintuitive
Mm.
because some people might say, well, if you're already thinking about how it's going to end, are you even really committed in the first place? You know?
Oh, absolutely. It's a valid concern. And Ola addresses this directly in her work. She's not advocating for like emotional detachment. It's about finding that balance between being prepared and being present.
And let's face it, we're all human, right? Even the most organized, prepared person can get completely thrown off balance by their emotions. She uses this funny anecdote about looking after her friend's cat as an example.
Oh, yeah, I remember that story. She was totally convinced she was going to adopt this cat, had it all planned out.
But then when the owner came back,
She was heartbroken. It just shows that even with the best laid plans,
life happens.
it does. So, yeah, it's not about trying to control every outcome or shut down your emotions. It's about having some sort of roadmap, but also being flexible and adaptable and allowing yourself to feel things, even when those feelings are messy and complicated.
Totally. And I think that leads us perfectly to what might be the most challenging part of Ola's work, her idea that death is actually the ultimate teacher of resilience.
Whoa. Okay, we're going deep here.
I know, but I think it's worth exploring because, well, it's a reality we all face.
True. And she's not suggesting we become obsessed with death, right?
No, not at all. It's about shifting our perspective, I think. Facing that reality, but not in a morbid way. It's more about seeing it as this natural part of life.
Yeah, and understanding that it's going to happen to all of us eventually. So how can that awareness help us to be more resilient in the here and now?
Exactly. Okay, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have. And there's still so much more to unpack.
There is. But for now, let us take a moment to kind of sit with what we've discussed. What are your biggest takeaways? What really resonated with you from Ola's work? We'd love to hear your thoughts, so share them on our social media channels. And don't forget to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more deep dives.
We'll be back soon to dive even deeper into Sylvia Ohl's ideas, including some practical strategies for applying all of this to our own lives.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back. I'm really looking forward to kind of digging into the more practical side of Sylvia Ohl's work. We talked about these big ideas, completion, accepting endings, even death. But how do those actually play out in our daily lives?
Yeah, that's the real question, isn't it? And I think Ola's exit strategy idea is a good place to start. Because it can sound, I don't know, maybe kind of negative at first.
A little bit, yeah. Who wants to be thinking about things ending all the time?
Exactly. But I think if you approach it with the right mindset, there's actually a lot of wisdom there.
For sure. Remember, it's not about being all doom and gloom or anything. It's not about dwelling on the worst case scenario. It's about taking ownership. It's about being prepared.
Yeah, it's more about being proactive than pessimistic.
Exactly. It's okay, instead of being caught totally off guard when something changes, you've at least considered the possibility. and maybe even have some ideas about what you're going to do next.
So it's less about like freaking out and more about, okay, I've got this.
Right. It's like having a plan. You know what I mean? So imagine you're thinking about leaving your job. Ola would say, okay, what's your exit strategy? What are the steps you can take right now to make that transition as smooth as possible?
It's about being in control of the situation as much as you can be.
Yeah, instead of just like letting things happen to you. And this applies to like all sorts of situations, not just careers. Like what about relationships? Let's say things aren't working out the way you'd hoped.
Well, in that case, your exit strategy might involve, I don't know, maybe couples counseling or setting some really clear boundaries or, yeah, even considering ending the relationship.
Right. It's about having that courage to acknowledge when something's reached its natural end.
And then having the foresight to think about, okay, what comes next?
And that's a huge part of Ola's whole definition of resilience, isn't it? It's not just about bouncing back. It's about intentionally moving forward.
It's that agency again, making choices, taking action.
And recognizing that endings aren't failures. They're actually opportunities.
Yeah, they can be chances for growth, for change, for something totally new.
Totally. And of course, this whole exit strategy thing, I get why people might have some questions about it.
Oh yeah, it can definitely sound a little weird. Like, if you're always thinking about how things are going to end, can you really be present? Can you really commit?
Absolutely. And Ola acknowledges that. You know, she's not saying we should all just detach emotionally from everything.
Right. And let's be honest, we're all human, right?
Yeah.
We have feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those feelings, they kind of take over no matter how well prepared we think we are. She tells this funny story about looking after her friend's cat.
Kimchi, right? Oh, yeah, that's a classic Ola story.
She was like 100% sure she was going to adopt this cat, had it all figured out.
Oh, I know. And then the owner comes back.
And she's devastated. It just goes to show you, you can't always predict these things.
Yeah, you can't control everything. And I think the takeaway there is it's not about suppressing your emotions. It's about having a plan, but also being willing to adapt.
It's about understanding that life is going to throw you curveballs.
Oh, yeah. So don't try to shut down your feelings. Just roll with it.
And I think that leads us back to this idea of death being the ultimate teacher. Okay, deep breaths, everyone. I know this could be a heavy topic, but I think it's important to talk about.
Yeah, especially in the context of resilience.
So how does Ola approach this idea of death as a teacher?
Well, first of all, she says it's about accepting it, acknowledging that death is an inevitable part of life.
Okay, so not running away from it.
Nope, facing it head on. But not in a scary, morbid way. More like, okay, this is a reality, let's just acknowledge it. And she says that can actually be really liberating.
I can see that. Like, if you're not constantly trying to deny this fundamental truth about life, maybe that frees you up to focus on other things.
Exactly. And it can help you prioritize what really matters, you know? It's like that old saying, life is too short. But Ola's work really helps you internalize that, I think.
So it's not just a cliche, it's a guiding principle.
Yeah. And that can help you make choices that are more aligned with your values. And it can also help you approach challenges differently.
Because if you know everything has an end, even your own life.
It kind of puts things in perspective, doesn't it?
It does. And it can help you be more resilient because you're like, okay, this setback is tough, but it's not the end of the world.
Right. And Ola has this really beautiful example from her own life. She talks about how her grandmother reacted to the death of her great-grandmother.
Oh, yeah. That was such a moving story. Tell me more about that.
Well, Ola describes how her grandmother, who was very close to her mother, you know, when she passed away, she didn't react with this, like, overwhelming grief or despair.
She was very accepting of it.
Yeah, like she just acknowledged it as a natural part of life. There's this line I remember, she said, people die, we cry a little, and we say goodbye.
Yeah. It's such a simple statement, but there's so much wisdom in it.
Right. There's a sense of peace in it. And
Yep.
for Ola, that's what it means to embrace death as a teacher. It's not about denying the sadness, it's about recognizing it's just part of life.
And in that acceptance, maybe we find a deeper understanding of ourselves.
Yeah, and our place in the world. And that's a big part of resilience, too.
It is. Because it's about recognizing that endings aren't failures. They're just part of the cycle. They're opportunities for growth, for change, for new beginnings.
Exactly. And it's about understanding that even in death, there's a form of completion, like a letting go. And that can make space for something new.
I love that. This has been such a rich conversation. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface, though.
I know, right? Ola's work is so full of insights.
It is, and we've got so much more to explore.
Yeah.
But for now, We're going to have to take a break.
We are, but we'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into Sylvia Ola's work. And we'll be talking about some practical ways you can actually apply all of this to your own life.
So in the meantime, we want to hear from you. What are your biggest takeaways so far? What really stuck with you? Share your thoughts with us on social media.
Yeah, come join the conversation. And don't forget to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more deep dives into all sorts of fascinating topics.
We'll see you soon. Welcome back to The Deep Dive. It's been really fascinating talking about Sylvia Ola and her ideas about resilience.
It really has. Her perspective is so refreshing. It's not just about, bouncing back. It's about embracing everything life throws at you, even the hard stuff.
And I think that's what I appreciate most about her work. She's not trying to sugarcoat things.
Yeah.
She acknowledges that, yeah, life can be tough, but even those tough moments can be opportunities for growth.
Exactly. And she's got this great sense of humor about it all, too, which I think is so important. You don't have to be super serious all the time to be resilient.
Totally. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, I'm wondering about the practical side of things. Like, what are some concrete steps our listeners can take to, I don't know, maybe start incorporating some of these ideas into their own lives?
That's a great question. I think it all starts with a simple mindset shift, really. Instead of being afraid of endings or seeing them as failures, what if we started to see them as opportunities?
Like, okay, this chapter's over. What's next?
Right. Instead of, oh no, everything's falling apart.
It's about asking different questions, right? Like, what can I learn from this? Not, why is this happening to me?
Exactly. And once you've shifted your perspective, you can start to take some real action. And that's where Ola's exit strategy comes in. Remember, it's not about being all doom and gloom. It's about being prepared.
It's about having a plan. So you're not totally blindsided when things change.
Yeah. Let's say you're not happy in your job anymore.
Okay, so what would an exit strategy look like in that situation?
Well, it could be anything from updating your resume to reaching out to people in your network, or even just starting to think about what other kinds of work you might be interested in.
So that when you're ready to make a move, you've already laid the groundwork.
Exactly. And this applies to so many areas of life, not just careers. Think about relationships or finances or even your physical health.
It's about taking control.
Yes. And another really important takeaway from Ola's work is this idea of acceptance. Whether it's accepting the end of a relationship or a job loss or even our own mortality, she says that acceptance is a huge part of being resilient.
And that doesn't mean you have to be happy about it.
No, of course not. It's okay to feel sad, to grieve, to feel all those messy emotions. But it's about acknowledging them and then finding a way to move through them.
And I think this is where her idea about death as a teacher is really powerful. Because when you think about it, confronting your own mortality, even just a little bit, can really help put things in perspective.
It can, yeah. It can remind you that your time is precious.
And that can be really motivating. It can help you focus on what really matters and let go of the things that don't.
Absolutely. It's about living intentionally, really making each day count.
So I guess as we wrap up our deep dive into Sylvia Ola's work, I'd love to hear from our listeners. What resonated with you most? What's one small step you can take today to, I don't know, maybe embrace completion in some area of your life?
Yeah, maybe it's having a difficult conversation that you've been putting off, or finally letting go of a project that's been dragging on forever.
Or maybe it's just taking a few minutes to appreciate the present moment. Just being grateful for what you have right now.
Whatever it is, remember that resilience is a journey. It's not about being perfect. It's about constantly learning and growing.
And it's about embracing all of it, the good, the bad, and everything in between.
Exactly. It's about showing up for your life, even when it's hard.
And knowing that you have the strength to handle whatever comes your way.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone. We're all in this together. So reach out to your friends, your family, your community. And if you're looking for more inspiration, don't forget to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more deep dives into all sorts of fascinating topics.
We'll see you next time.